It's crazy. I only got three. I'm gonna give a shot at this one. It worked really well. I overworked it that day. Yeah, and I came to visit. I said, just take it around. But then for the day,
All right, 6 o'clock. Thank you all for coming. Go ahead and open the meeting. Start with an invocation. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call when you're ready, Rose.
Davis.
Here.
Worth. Here. Miller.
Here.
Brower.
Here.
Zielinski.
Here.
Go ahead and open public comment at 6:01.
3275 Mill Road. I was wondering why our paychecks from working the elections were held for so long. They were working the 12th, they were mailed out the 30th, except for one person that got theirs early. So obviously they were signed. Was there a legitimate reason for it? I have the same complaint. Okay, and John?
I don't know.
Is there any reason why they were written on the 12th and not mailed until the 30th? Never happened before.
Well, honestly, if they were delayed, there were at least 5 checks written out incorrectly for wrong amounts, wrong times. No, there were more than 2. And also, I was out of town for a whole week for a family emergency. And so I apologize if there was any delays. There were several questions regarding them. And I had my deputy working in my place who did not feel comfortable signing them.
No, she's your deputy.
Well, she is also being newly trained, and also she has no obligation to sign something she doesn't feel comfortable being signed. We checked with MTA. MTA said absolutely not to sign one of them. So
2 of them, one was shorted, one was
one was over,
so those were the only
was shorted
checks
pay.
that were-
So there were
That doesn't-
several corrections
That
needed.
doesn't mean the others shouldn't have been signed and sent.
All of them were, from my understanding, they were
Sent? No,
they were sent.
On the 30th. That's when they were postmarked in Grand Rapids.
Well, they went to a post office here first, and then get shipped from there to Grand Rapids. Again, I apologize, and like I said, I was out of town, and so I apologize for any delay.
So it doesn't happen.
We'll do our best to make sure it doesn't happen again.
There will be complaints if there are.
Any more public comment?
Yes. So there's some corrections to the draft minutes from August 12th. Under your prepaid bills on the consent agenda, the election payroll where Miller made the motion and was seconded by Davis, that it says check number 1001153 to 1001163 for $5,069.25. It was not approved for the 1001164 because that check had not even been written yet. And also approving the $5,000 was really incorrect because only $4,977.25 is what was actually written at that point. So there were a couple of mistakes there. Also, in the draft minutes, I'm wondering how on the roll call vote for the MTA conference, Miller could participate when she had already left the building. And when she left, I kind of found it pretty disruptive that the meeting didn't get put into recess. And she walked out while the board was in a discussion, so it was kind of hard to follow all of that. Also, on the agenda for tonight, on the consent agenda for the prepaid bills, your check numbers are incorrect. It should read the 15406 to 15415. And also with that, on the payroll, the check number 1001166 in the amount of 270. That amount was already approved last month, so it should have been approved last month, and then it's come back again this month. Your amounts don't match, your check numbers don't match. It's just kind of really frustrating. I'd like to see some of the reports be for the accounts payable and payroll and your election issues come to the board prior to anything being written so that the checks can be reviewed for accuracy, because there were mistakes. And that is the explanation why those checks did not get out. Now, the 30th, that's not, I don't know why the post office did that. I mean,
Yeah, they were-
went out way before that.
They
know they did. So I don't have any control of the post office, though. Also, in reviewing the cash summary fund, I know things are being changed. You guys are consolidating accounts and moving stuff. Do we have a deadline of when that's going to happen? Because, you know, looking at that, the Parks and Recreation Fund is still in a negative balance. So do we have a deadline when we're going to get accurate reports, cash summary reports? Also, on your L4029, I don't like paying taxes any more than anybody else. And, you know, the statement that Mr. Davis is saying that he wants to change it to a zero balance, I'm assuming he's doing it for political reasons to get votes and not truly understanding how a budget process works. The board approved to put in place a finance committee to help with strategic planning, long-term planning. So why not give them the opportunity to do their job, come back to the board, let them show exactly what the needs of the township are before we go taking money away and then all of a sudden seeing, well, we really need twice that much money. You know, it just, to me, is not fiscal responsible.
Any more public comment? Close public comment, 6:08.
Okay, I would like to address the board before we go further into the meeting.
Okay.
I heard that there was some concern when I left 8 minutes before the meeting ended last month. And I would like to explain why I left and why I will be leaving tonight at 7:45. Our meetings used to start at 5 p.m. and would go until 6 or 6:30. They now start at 6 and continue until 8 or later. I committed to help a community group from 7 to 9 o'clock every Monday evening during the summer months. I cannot change the day nor the time of those meetings as they involve over 70 people. However, if this is a problem for the board, anyone on the board, we could go back to starting at 5. As I said, it was only for the summer months. And it's only 4 board meetings when they go overtime. And I would like to thank you for your understanding.
Entertained.
All right. All right. Approval of a meeting agenda.
I have a couple of changes. We need to add number 13 to the reports because the assessor actually had a report. And under new business, I would like to discuss campaign signs. Depending on how you have the appointments for the finance committee under reports, there are 2 members that will be joining. So their appointments, do we do that under reports or do we do that under new business?
Let me just do it under the report.
Okay. That's it.
Also, we need to look at the prepaid bills because the number on that is.
We're not doing the
doesn't
consent
include-
agenda.
That's
we're doing
part of the
meeting
consent agenda.
Sorry. This is not that.
It's okay.
All right. I make a motion, we approve the agenda with the addition of assessor report number 13 and new business campaign signs.
Signs or funds?
Signs.
Oh, thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, consent agenda.
Move to approve the minutes from August 12th.
We also need to change the numbers on the prepaid bills and the payroll numbers. They're not correct.
Prepaid bills through 15 for,
Yeah, to include
15.
Sam's Club.
and then the unpaid bills. Need to all those.
True. Do I need to?
It's your
say that
motion,
again?
yeah.
Yeah,
Your motion.
prepaid bills go to 15 or 15, and unpaid bills, 15,416 to 15,428, plus 3 additional checks for a total of 23,358.17.
I'll second.
Should we be approving this check register without double checking these checks? Is anybody checked to verify these amounts are correct? That would be great, because we should have them prior to the board meeting. Thank you.
And I'm starting with the minutes on the back
Wait a
page.
minute, we haven't got that.
Does this include the
Motion
invoices?
approved yet.
I thought Dave approved it.
Dave seconded it, but we didn't get it approved by the board.
Oh.
So it's an old mistake.
So is there a reason that you couldn't check those before the meeting, Reese?
They were not made available to me. You know, those are-
They're written the day of.
Oh.
It's just easier than sending out and, redoing the bills.
I mean, adding up the totals, correct?
Yep.
Not
Yep, just add the totals. Sorry.
That's what I got for these three.
You're good. Only thing I don't see is your mileage report or the other 3 missing checks.
Mileage report's not in there.
Unless I missed it.
It's probably under, the other checks are not written. 2420 for
Well,
the J's, because
a
I want
bill
to pull
for
that out of
AJ's?
the right account. Yep.
okay.
And then the one for Keith Bonning, we just need to journal entry.
Okay. And the comps?
Intercom just came in just before I left. Yep.
All right, go ahead and roll call.
Brower,
Yep.
Miller,
We're approving the things that we pulled and then
We
we
are-
added to the
no,
consent agenda?
no, we're just approving the
Yes.
motion that you made for the consent agenda.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Zelinski,
Yes.
Worth, yes, Davis.
Yes. Motion carries.
Okay, the minutes on August 12th, on the back page, under unfinished business number 2, moved it into, I think we are gonna delete this. The funds will be moved into the general fund. Under any other business to come before the board,
Can you repeat that? Because I'm having trouble hearing you over here.
try and speak louder. Sorry, under any other business come before the board, move to approve members attend the regional meeting and pay the fees, the roll call vote. I had talked to Rose before the meeting saying that we need to remove my name from the roll call and put absent. And same with the next motion, move to have the compensation committee, and it says ayes all. Again, that needs to have my name as absent for that. That's all I had for the minutes.
Okay, the other changes.
They were made with the motion for the consent agenda.
Okay. Hmm. I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes of August 12th, 2024 with the amendments,
Second.
Corrections.
corrections. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have Chris Parrish here from Benzie EMS and to speak to the board.
Thanks for having us. There's actually 3 of us here for your questions. Director King and Katie Zeitz, administrator, are here too. I thought I'd just speak real briefly as a full-time employee and a resident, 2511 Reynolds Road. I started as a volunteer, really with Green Lake Interlochen in 2009. I went full-time with, I went with Benzie EMS about 10 years ago. I'm a paramedic firefighter. It's what I do for my living. So I want to tell you a little bit about our service. I think probably most of you know we are a millage-based service, and we do have a millage coming up. Amazing that we're here, right? There's a small increase and a slight difference in amount of duration of the millage. Tom and Katie can talk about that. But I wanted to tell you about the service itself. I'm really proud of our service. I was an integral part of Interlochen, going from a basic fire department to an ALS transporting fire department on a full-time basis. So I'm pretty familiar with costs of change from one service to another and how we evaluate both the township or county's needs and the costs thereof. And Benzie County offers long transport times. It's more than an hour from the West Coast all the way to Traverse City. That requires an advanced provider with a pretty good skill set. That's a long time. In Traverse City, where you have a 5-minute transport time, fortunately, you're really close. So here, the need is greater to have a skilled provider, and I couldn't be prouder of my partners. Please believe me, if you ever want to look at our statistics and our qualifications, we have an excellent staff of highly qualified paramedics. In addition to that, we're also highly efficient. We look at, when Green Lake went, we look at cost per call volume, and it's high. It would kind of horrify you because it's kind of an insurance package. That's what it is. If you don't need it, you pay for it and just have it. If you do need it, you really appreciate it. So with our current millage at 0.8 and our requested millage at 0.9, it's still remarkably low for a county-based service. I believe the average is 1.7. So when we compare ourselves to like Kalkaska and we look at how many runs do they do per truck, they're in the 500 range, we're in the 700 range. So we do run out of trucks once in a while, but we are highly efficient. So I wanted to mention that. We're here to also answer any questions that you might have. And I am here for the board or anyone else as a resource. This is my passion and my job is emergency services, both fire and EMS. I'm a paramedic firefighter, so I have an IC certification, and I'm a fire officer. These are things that I've spent much of my life at, so I'd like to be a resource for anyone. So that's kind of the service that we have. I'd also think it's worth thanking the community, as I've worked in more than one place, and I feel really appreciated by the residents of Benzie County. And I'll be honest with you, that makes a difference. Sometimes we have really terrible hard calls, and being appreciated by the residents we serve helps make that a little better. So I wanted to thank you for that. Lastly, I wanted to mention the fire departments. We have virtually every fire department, I think except Thompsonville, provides fire rescue. So every EMS call is also a fire rescue call. And I've watched over the last 10 years that grow from, struggling to respond to responding most of the time. So we get a fire rescue response from Dayton's fire department almost all the time. And if that's you, you may well really appreciate that. They can provide us help loading the patient, treating the patient, even driving the truck on occasions, and we appreciate that. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Director Tom King. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I thank everybody for allowing Chris, myself, and Katie to be here this evening and talk a little bit about the ambulance service. Just to give you a little bit of a nutshell of exactly what we have. We run 2 trucks 24 hours a day. We have one here in Inland Township, one in Frankfurt. We also have a day car, which we do our best to keep that staffed during the day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That truck is also on the edge of Inland Township. Serves the Inland Township, the Honor area, as well as Elmira and Thompsonville. We run approximately 2,600 calls a year, give or take a few. And we do, we're the only advanced life support provider in Benzie County. We do education. We put on education for our own staff, training. All that gets expensive, and the costs keep going up every year. Equipment, of course, and ambulances are expensive to purchase and maintain. All of our staff has to maintain credentialing at the paramedic level, EMT level for EMTs. We have to have at least an EMT and a paramedic on every truck. We also get involved in some community events. We do Ironman every year. We have every truck available for that in the county. And we do little things. We've done the parade, the bridge walk in Beulah every year. We try to have someone out there. It's more of something fun to do and whatnot. And serving our community is what we want to do. And Benzie County EMS has been around for many years, and we'd like to see it stick around and grow for many, many, many more years, decades to come. One of my strategic plans within the next 3 to 5 years is to see that day car ultimately end up being another 24-hour car. So we have 3 cars on 24 hours a day to best serve our community, as well as one of our stations in Frankfurt. It's getting time for that station to get upgraded. We actually have that, where the station is actually owned by the hospital. It's the way it's been from the beginning when the ambulance service initially came into inception. And it's just time for us to grow and come up with something else. There's been different talks over the years, what to do for that station. There's nothing set in stone at this time, but one of my objectives is to send the crews over there to be in a different station of some type, still able to serve that area of the county as it does right now. Our station 2, which is over here off 669, is a good place. It's a great place. We don't have any desires right now to move that. Also discussion, we move our day truck to 24 hours a day. Where would that go? Would it stay here? Would it go into another location? That's all still up in the air. So there's a lot of things, a lot of what ifs and a lot of unknowns. But one thing I also realized was I've been the director for 6 years. This is the 3rd time there's been a millage renewal for the ambulance service. And that has always struck me as a little odd that you're just renewing your ambulance millage every 2 to 3 years, when I think most departments are going for 5, 7, 10 years. I believe Grand Traverse just went for a 10-year millage. I could be mistaken on that. So we came up with a compromise to lengthen it out for 7 years. So additionally, instead of every 2 years or 3 years, asking for a Headley rollback to help offset some of that, a slight increase from 0.7 to 0.8 to help with that, lengthen the timeout. So every 2 years, you're not going, why is the ambulance service on the ballot? We just saw this, didn't we? So hopefully you won't see it quite as often, and we can continue our operations and provide you top-notch service and grow with our communities as our communities grow. It's becoming more and more populated here. Going to want timely responses from the ambulance to take care of you and transport you to where you need to go.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Katie Beggs, County Administrator. I don't really have much to add. They both did a great job, but I do just want to notate I did put 3 handouts on the table. Everyone is welcome to those. They're also on our website. One of them really goes over the EMS millage. The other one goes over the jail operations millage, which is also on for November at a renewal rate, not to be clear, just a renewal. And the third one is just some general information regarding elections. It really goes over some of the, whys and what is in the different ballot language that those see within the community. So like I said, all those are right there for you and also on our website. So if there's any questions, feel free to reach out to our office. We're happy to answer any questions you have. If you have any questions for me.
Anyone on the board have any questions? Anyone in the public?
Write down from yours on
669.
yeah, thank you. I ran an ambulance for help on an ambulance in El Paso for 17 years. Can I have you, I have down here twice that was with someone sick, and you evaluated them. We took them to the doctor and they were fine, but I didn't use yours when the elderly gentleman I live with the live, and I cannot break you guys enough tomorrow or
Thank you.
and that comes from an old timer that nobody has taken when I jump in the ambulance.
I hear I've been doing it for over 30 years.
Peggy?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. We've used EMS numerous times since we moved up here.
Yep.
And they're wonderful. And it's, to me, it's really gratifying to know that 5 minutes away, there's EMS service, and they've been great. I'm happy to pay more millage.
All right, we'll move on to our reports. Art, County Commissioner.
Sure. So not to be confused, I'm not Evan, in case anybody was wondering about that. My name's Art Jeanette. I do represent a small part of Inland Township. Evan couldn't be here tonight, so he asked me to be here. Dave, I send a report to you guys each month. Do you put
Yep.
this out on the table for people?
Yep.
Okay, good. So I'm just gonna hit some highlights if I could. And I'm not ignoring you, but my job is to present to the board, so I'm gonna focus there. I'll take questions from anybody, okay? So just to highlight some things, I want to kind of backstop what was said about the EMS millage. I've been in the community 28 years. Demographics are changing. Population is getting older. I'm lucky that I haven't had to make that call. But God, I hope I have somebody there when I have to. So these guys are doing an outstanding job. As a commissioner in 8 years, I've watched it closely. In no particular order, we've had some discussions at the county level about potentially a paid professional regarding parks and recreation, maybe grant writing or economic development. We're a long ways from making any decisions. I would be interested in your feedback, not necessarily tonight, because I know you got a full agenda, but I'd appreciate any phone calls. We know that there's a need, but maybe there's something that we're missing. The management of the recycling program for the county is now being contracted out, at least I believe for the next 12 months. I think that it's going to be transparent to you. I don't think anything will change in that regard. But just wanted you to be aware that they went with a company called Schaefer Company, and overall the costs remain about the same. Is that right, Katie? And also, we're looking at approving an ordinance for a payment in lieu of taxes for housing projects. Last year, the state legislature cleared the path so that you could do a pilot without having to have Michigan involved. And we see that as a tool to attract housing projects, because we don't have a lot of people just banging on our doors wanting to do this. We've got some work to do on it yet. The concept has been approved. Policies, et cetera, have to be written on that yet. Any questions on that piece of it? The other thing that I want to touch on with you is the Maples. I don't know what Evans conveyed to you, but we thought at one time through restructuring, we were going to be able to retire the Maples building debt ahead of time. We found out there was language in that bond that doesn't allow us to. You haven't probably noticed it, but we've been reducing the amount of millage that we're being assessed. So we'll just continue to do that through 2029. And at that time, we should be able to, that's when it's scheduled to be paid off. I'll entertain questions. Okay. Yes, sir.
What about the airport?
Well, what do you want to know about the airport?
Well, your last two reports.
Oh, I see you do. Thanks for reading those reports. Without getting into all of the backstory, we learned that the county is one of 3 owners, but we really didn't have a voice on the board. And there were some issues that bubbled up there that, in my opinion, we should have known about, that started in about 2017. When it was brought to our attention, we began to question more about what our role is with the board. And we're in the process now through our administrator, working with the airport authority and I believe the other 2 owners, which is Crystal Lake Township and the city of Frankfurt, to develop language where we do have a voice. At a minimum, we expect to be in closed meetings when they weren't allowing the commissioners to sit in closed meetings, because then we would have known what was going on. I guess they don't think we're mature enough to take that information in and what we do with it, I guess. And potentially an expansion of the board, but those things all have to be worked out. Right now, we do have 2 appointees from the county level that represent us, but we appointed them and then we just kind of left them alone, and we hadn't been getting any feedback until they needed something. We're going to change that. Katie, is that a fair representation?
It is, yeah. Our legal counsel is working on drafting an updated MOU the original MOU was put in place in the late nineties, and it was just between the city and the county to create the authority. Since then, Crystal Lake Township is joining the authorities, so we're going to clean up those documents, memorialize the new relationship, who's committed to what in the relationships, and those sorts of things. So we are working through that with our legal counsel now.
This is only one piece of a much bigger piece. We've been working hard for the last several years to modernize our business practices. We're updating policies and contracts with other organizations. Sometimes where there wasn't a contract that should have been, we're trying to play catch up with all of that. That's our goal, and this is just one piece of that. Unfortunately, sometimes you don't learn about it until it's kind of accidental. I'm sure that's happened to you guys before too.
Yeah.
Where suddenly you realize, I didn't know there was a gap, and hopefully you approach it by, let's not worry about how we got here, let's worry about how we're gonna fix it. Anything else?
Any questions from me on?
Nope, thank you.
I do have one thing, Dave, from Evan's report, which isn't here, but at the end of the meeting last month, for those of you that were here, Evan raised the question, we're moving ARPA funds to our general fund.
Mhm.
And he raised the question of, he had never heard that before and he wasn't sure it was legal. So the next day, I actually had a response from Rod Taylor, who is our lead consultant from Manor Casterison, who I believe also works for the county.
Yes.
Very closely. He wrote a very nice piece. I'm happy to share it with everybody, but not having heard back from Evan, because I asked, that put the issue to rest for him, and apparently has. But it's all on the up and up. I just wanted to make sure everybody knows, and that has been moved at this point, or is it still in the process?
It's been moved.
It's been moved. And it's now part of our general fund, which, just like the ARPA funds, we could basically do almost anything with it. They're in our general funds now, and we can do almost anything with it. So that's all I had to add.
Evan did bring that up to me, and I clarified with him the allowance of that, and how that works, and how it's not for any general governmental reason, general service. And so it's probably why he hasn't responded to you. I talked to him about it.
Thank you.
Dayton?
Last month we ran 15 calls, broke down into 8 medicals, 1 accident with injuries, 1 accident without injuries, 3 calls that were dispatch canceled en route, 1 authorized control burning, and 1 smoke detector activation going off. Host testing got completed, no hosts failed, all of our ladders got tested and none of those failed, so that's good. Other than that, that's about it.
Parks and Rec?
I can.
Okay.
Working on that. So, the Lane Road Natural Area Park, which is a park that I've been working with, has sort of been on hold in some ways for the last month, mostly because none of the people who normally work on it have had any time to do much of anything in the last month. But we do have the picnic tables put together, and they're sitting there. We have done more work on the trails, a little more work on the trails. The benches have arrived. They're sitting out there in the parking lot. Dave's going to take them over to the park tomorrow, and I'll get my son and 11-year-old granddaughter to put them together. They know how to do. So we're mostly waiting for some labor force unknown to me to come and help put that stupid pavilion together, because it's been sitting there for quite some time, and we just haven't been able to organize the right people with the right backs and the right muscles to put it together, which would be really nice. So if anybody knows anybody who wants to volunteer to be part of that project, I would really appreciate hearing about it. So would Dave.
I think maybe we should consider hiring somebody to just get it done.
Well, that would be fine. I would appreciate that if you did that, because I frankly don't have the ability myself to do it, and most of the people who are volunteering are not able to do it.
Well, and then it's safer and known to be put up right.
Yeah. I mean, my son's gone back to work, and he can't do it. So if you could hire somebody, I would appreciate that.
We may still need your 11-year-old
Yeah, she's a good one.
To supervise.
In good shape, yeah.
Especially if there are any computers involved.
No, there's no computers, but she's pretty good with a hammer and a screwdriver.
All right.
So how does that happen? Who does that? Who hires?
I'll reach out for some quotes and see.
Okay, can we do it soon?
Yep.
Can we set, so that we're not waiting another month to get it approved, can we set a dollar amount now so
No
that?
idea amount do we have?
I mean, what's involved in putting the cement footings in, for the pavilion first?
Mhm.
You know, doing that, digging the holes, putting the cement footings in, and then assembling the pavilion that's sitting over there ready to assemble and putting it on.
Has anybody looked at the instructions and?
Yes.
is there-
Yeah.
No, I
Oh, they're-
have a question. Is there a suggested number of hours that?
No.
My husband is a carpenter, and he'd be very happy to help. Good. Like.
Oh, so you could,
Okay, fee.
Peggy can give you her number to you, and you can hand it to Riley.
Yes. I
There
don't
you-
know if it's gonna be enough, just 1 million.
Oh, no.
I mean, the cement, you have to do the cement footings one day and, you know. and
Yeah.
I think that should be fine.
I mean, actually putting the pavilion together will probably not take more than half a day. Dave's looked at this, specs, so have I have a copy of it. Yeah, be great.
As for the Inland Township Park, had a lot of requests about getting the tire swing replaced.
A lot of complaints about the bathrooms last week, 5
Yes.
in 1 day and a half.
Had 2 calls.
Yeah. And then, we do finally have the quote from Rudy about the tee boxes. And then we have more oat wilt that we need to look into getting taken care of this fall.
Yeah, the Oak Wilt, Ott came in and said he thinks, he's not sure, because one of them might not be on our property, that there's 3 or 4 trees there with oak wilts that need to be addressed, and then the trees out
Yeah, I'd
at,
like to say something about the one.
Lamb Road Park need to be addressed as well. So in order, I mean, we only have one way to go. We gotta take care of those trees.
Right.
Otherwise, we're not gonna have any oaks in our township at all.
Right.
It'll be
Yes,
going
I
everywhere.
forgot to add to my report, I met with Ellie, Johnson, the promoter,
Mhm.
about 2 weeks ago over at Lamb Road. She came 2 years ago to point out places that we should be paying attention to, which we have. And some of those trees that were on our watch have died in the last year. So there's about 5 or 6 trees that are dead that need to come down. She gave me an idea of what some of the options were, because what we're trying to do is prevent it from moving to the really big, beautiful trees. Right now, it's right along the entrance road. It's possible, there's like 3 things you can do. You can trench the roots, because it spreads through the roots. You can trench around them, and there's access to do that. It's expensive to do. You have to borrow one of those trenching machines, and somebody has to come and who knows how to do it. You have to have a kind of professional who has access to those machines. You can also inject the trees that are not affected yet, which is probably a good idea. You can ahead of time inject them with something that will prevent them from getting oat wilt. And you can also, I mean, it spreads through the air and it spreads through the roots. So you have to make sure you can also create a buffer, which she suggested we might want to do. We take down the dead trees, we leave a buffer there, and take down a couple of trees that are actually still alive, but they're right in the middle of that buffer zone.
Mhm.
And if we take them down, and make a bigger buffer, then we can prevent the spread as well. So it's 3 different things that you can do. They're all going to cost some money. I have a list of the professional tree people who are on her list. Some of them do that kind of work with oak wilt, not all of them do. So it's going to require the board to commit to dealing with it, really, and putting up the money for it. That we could use ARPA money for, I'm sure.
Mhm. I'll get that list from you and call and have them come out and give us quotes on
Art
the
mark
different
ones
options.
and-
Yeah,
Art-
I've
art
already
markers.
talked to one of them who does my trees, and he doesn't do it, but he knows some people he knows who to look to for those machines. So,
All right.
yeah. But I think it's really important that we deal with it this year. You don't cut oak trees until October,
All right.
but, and if we cut down the trees that are dead right now, we need to leave the wood there for a year, cover it up, because the beetle that spreads the oak will come after, if there's any life left in the trees, it will move into the step. So you want to let them die completely before you remove that wood. I mean, the
Okay.
trees we took out 2 years ago were so dead that it was no problem taking them. But these are not. These are recently dead.
Okay. All right. So on the bathrooms, we need to figure out something, whether we want to add a porta potty, look at getting a new bigger porta potty, whether we want to rent or buy, or if we want to look into putting up the permanent bathroom.
I'm concerned a little bit with the permanent bathrooms because of the vandalism that is being done at other parks. I'm not sure if that is happening that much with the rental units.
Well, you could put automatic locks on them, so you lock them down and open them up at a certain time of
Right.
day.
Yeah, that can be done.
I know our survey was pretty informal, but it was one of the top things to do. And also the complaints we had, absolutely discussed is the one and only porta potty we have. I think it needs to be addressed, and I think we should look into putting a permanent restroom there.
All right.
I think the near-term solution is to rent a much better porta potty
Or two.
or two. And, get those in place before we, not that we shouldn't do a plan for a permanent one, but let's not rush into it. And as a stopgap, there are porta potties and there are porta potties. I've seen some that look like little houses. I mean, running water and the whole, heat, the whole thing. Don't know that we have to go that far, but we could certainly do better than what we have now.
The one at Lamb Road is pretty nice. I don't know if anybody's using it.
Well, that's right. No one knows about that park, so no one's using that one.
It's a good one. It's a good one. I assume you have a service that comes and empties it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. but-
Yeah, and they only do that half as many times as they do this one.
Yeah, and
So.
nobody has been bothering anything. They really
Right.
haven't. It's amazing. It's been pretty.
All right, so I will reach out to CAPS about just having them temporarily add, and then I will reach out for quotes again on doing a permanent one. Do we have, I'm not saying we have to make a motion, but any ideas of a budget that we would want to aim for?
Well, we have ARPA funds, so I
Yeah.
think that, I think doing things that truly improve the township and the things that people want would be a good use of the ARPA funds, so.
Right.
Because I don't think we should waste them on everyday bills, it's just my opinion, so I think that we need to address the park on Lake Ann Road. We've invested a lot of money in the Lamb Road Park. Obviously, the tree swing is a big problem at the park here, as well as the benches and the picnic tables there. I don't know if any of you have gone there, but I regularly go there, and the benches are all broken. The picnic tables have, one level's this way on the top, one's this way, and you can't even use them, not to mention the splinters. So I think that we should think about investing some money into replacing those things and fixing that park up. However, I disagree with the disc golf course and the things there strongly. There has been a letter written to the board addressing the many concerns of the disc golf course and the unsafety of it, as well as two or three people have come in and placed concerns about the disc golf course, and I think we need to seriously consider doing it right before we make any permanent improvements to it. That's my take.
Before we start getting quotes on a permanent restaurant, what do we want? I mean, do we want multiple stalls? Do we want unisex? Do we want gendered?
Yeah, I mean, what we were looking at before was 2 stalls, both unisex that just lock, and then the drinking fountain was brought up, so adding that to it. But That's what I would think.
The restrooms at Penfold Park over in Alberta, pretty, probably have about the same traffic, but maybe a little more, but they're really nice. They seem to work, and there's just two, there's two.
Can we ask Alberta what they paid for theirs and
Yeah.
when?
We can also get some local contractors to, I mean, I know some that would put in bids.
All right, so. And then the tire swing,
Just need to replace the tire on that,
yeah,
which we have to do that every few years anyway. That's a given.
all right. So yeah, I'll got quotes on all of that. And then I'll get with Rudy about the disc golf course. And then can I set up time for
There's
the
a
three of
letter,
us?
and I
Yeah, I
have,
know the letter,
yeah. And I think we should contact that gentleman because he had a professional company that was willing to come in and make suggestions and improvements and stated the dangers of ours as is.
All
And
right,
I think we should contact him.
all right. Fire association,
Nothing to report there
nothing to report.
at this point.
All right.
Here you guys, again, here, just.
Okay.
Sorry.
So fire association, what?
Nothing to report at this time.
Nothing to report, thank you.
Planning commission.
We met on August 21st, and we're going to be having a special meeting, a work session with Mary Riley on September 11th. That's Wednesday at 6 o'clock here.
Okay. Event committee.
I would like to ask the board to approve two new numbers to the event committee. It's not easy to find people that want to be involved. We have small group right now that it makes it challenging to try to organize some events.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Agnew Montel and Angela Rose that were approved by the event committee. I'm asking the board to.
Who's the other person? I'm sorry, you said Angela Rose, and who's the other person?
So Abby Montel was from last month's event meeting, but then I wasn't here for on the 12th. I was traveling, so I think we missed that. So it would be.
And she's a new president too, or leader.
Sure.
Chair.
Abby, and her last name is Montith.
Tith.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, who are you?
Ada O'Connor.
Hi. Nice to meet you. I'm Mary.
Mary, I know you because your name is on the table, but I'm getting mine wrong. I'm the new chair of the event committee.
Thank you.
Besides that, we are trying to do something fun for Halloween. So we're thinking about a pet parade with an election of best costume, and so we're still working on that. And I'll have more to say next month.
All right.
I would move that we approve Abby Montiel and Angela Rose as members of the events committee.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, website committee.
Well, we've been busy, but not as busy as I would hope. You'll notice a new camera up above us that actually captures the whole room, swivels and turns and does all sorts of things. And this little hockey puck that's sitting up front surprisingly captures everybody's voice in the room. It's magic. It was only $300, so that's the easy part. We still haven't quite figured out battling some old technology sitting on the back counter. How to make it work with YouTube. YouTube seems to be fussy, but hopefully by next month we have streaming meetings. And so we're going to keep running dual systems for another month, but hopefully we're getting there a step at a time.
Hey, Jim, have you started putting the rentals?
I'm sorry?
Have you started putting the rentals on the calendar yet?
There needs to
So
be
we
an
know when
update of the form. There's a couple other things we need to do before we put it, and we have gotten it set up in the background to get, so they can pay on there, but so far, most people don't know they can do that, so.
Yeah, but people complain because I never put them on when the buildings were rented, so I was wondering if you were gonna continue putting them on there or not when the building's been rented.
The goal
So
is yes.
people know.
The goal is yes, but we're waiting until everything is in place so it's not piecemeal and more confusing.
Cause I know that the old form is still on there, but people want it, I just give it to them anyway.
All right, land committee, Evan's not here, but, we have not had a meeting, and I'm supposed to talk on Thursday with, Eagle about their timeline for testing the ground over here. Blight zoning, or zoning, I guess, had single family dwellings, one addition, 2 accessory buildings, in the last month for permits. Compensation committee.
So I've gone through and looking specifically at the zoning administrators. Coming up with some sort of a description or job description. One of the comments probably closest would be Inland Township. But while I was going through that, I was thinking about not only the zoning administrators, but all the others that we've been talking about. The manual, the policy and procedure manual, the descriptions of what you guys have to do for your elected officials, and then all those other duties. So I decided to contact Manor calls. Custairs. Thank you.
You could just say manor.
After about 4 or 5 months, you finally master it.
One of those things. Anyhow, I talked with them and I said, have you ever done anything like this? Procedure manual, position description. And they said, yes. And they said, can you give me a rough idea of what that would be? They have a proposal here, excuse me.
Here, just hand it here. He had knee surgery not too long ago, so.
I'm good place in 3 weeks also. So anyhow, for the. Yeah, everybody. So this is a pretty rough proposal, but it gives you an idea of what you were talking about and what they're proposing is to actually sit down with everybody, talk about what you're supposed to be doing and what you do, and get an understanding of what's actually involved. And taking a look at our policy and procedure manual and updating that, because we talked about that also, and actually bundle that into figuring out how we compensate. And that's where we do that. So this is kind of where I'm heading, to get some assistance of the overall.
So I started out, I'm sort of not there, sort of there on the compensation committee. And it is very, very confusing and hard to do because we spend a lot of time contacting numerous other townships and places throughout the entire state, and everybody does everything differently. And so there is no comparing apples to apples. And so, and also we don't have any clear, we're not holding people accountable for certain positions, and we're not holding, because we don't have any good policy and procedures. So I think it's a good idea.
Found too that there's a certain amount of education needed for zoning administrators, so that was my focus. And there's training through MSU, but there's also classes, which I think we need to set up expectations of what we're expecting. And that's one thing that's missing in the descriptions that I found. Is saying, you know, this is, if you don't have it, this is what we need to get. Whether township pays for it or they have to pay for it. It's kind of nice, but certainly think that's something that's needed. And being on the board of the Benson County Conservation District, everybody drives down to honor. You see that big hole in the ground that was supposed to be a Dollar General. It's a big mud puddle.
Mm-hmm.
They know and understand all the stuff that went wrong with that. There had been a EGO report that was a non-buildable site because of the water level. And this was done some years ago. And that report just never ended up anywhere. Dollar General comes in and says, oh yeah, this is great. You start digging and red flags start going up. And everybody says, well, that's not my fault, that's his fault, that's their fault. They use Green Lake's zoning administrator. And, you know, maybe he didn't go down there to look at it. Big question mark. So a lot of things that go on that shouldn't happen.
That's the truth. Well, one of the things that strikes me about this that I mentioned last meeting, not to beat a dead horse, but there's only one person sitting at this table that's guaranteed to be here on November 20th. Well, from an election standpoint, guaranteed to be here. Hopefully you're still here. I would think that, and not, Katie, not to pull you into the conversation, you.
You should have left. You had your chance.
I've been very impressed with the quality of work that Manor has brought forward. See, I didn't say Casterison, just Manor. Has brought forward from the standpoint of providing not only the information that we want, I think at a reasonable price. Strikes me that if we can, now we're talking, if I understood you correctly, Jim, this is to do basically all positions that we have.
That's my understanding. That they wanted to sit down with all of you to understand statutory, non-statutory duties, understand what's going on, along with the deputies and zoning administrator and the fire chief, and, you know, just to understand, you know, what's involved.
Given the financial position we're in, we can certainly afford it. And I would think just from the standpoint of providing service to the residents, I guess I would make a motion that we hire Manor Casterison. Do you know, would this be through Rod's division? I mean, it's his name.
His name's on that, but.
His name's on everything.
Yeah, he often outsources.
Well, he's the head of the division, so.
You would direct this.
I would make the motion. I would make the motion that we hire Manor Casterison to provide us. What's the basic language for this?
Help with policy and procedures.
Help with proposed procedures and policies for a sum up to $12,000. Yeah. And job descriptions. Thank you. See, you're here for a reason.
guidance.
There you go. Good.
Could you repeat that again?
Organizational guidance.
An organizational guidance up to an amount of $12,000. Potentially to start, well, he says, starting in early October. You can say either starting in early October or as soon as possible.
I'll second.
I know that the only policy and procedures manual that we do have is one that I typed way back when we were still meeting down in Bendon.
Well, and I heard
And
that
that-
came from Elmira.
That was basically an Elmira thing, and I flipped things around so it said Inland Township and pertaining to us, but yeah.
I'm still looking for appendix 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I never found it.
Never been there.
All right. Go ahead, roll call.
Okay. Brower,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes,
Zelinski,
Yes.
Ward, yes, Davis.
Yes.
I guess I should have asked for some money when I typed it many moons ago.
All right. I'm gonna do a quick recess, 7:05.
Perfect timing. We were just getting ready to.
That was Katie, now's your chance to get up.
Right.